Hi, today we're going to work on Introduction to Chord Switching and Strumming. So I'm assuming that you don't really have a lot of experience playing the guitar, so this would be in the basic category or at the beginning of your studies of guitar. The third finger we're going to take, which is this finger by the way, not like a piano, this is one on a piano. On a guitar, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to take the ring finger, which is the third finger, and we're going to place it here on the third fret of the high string. And that's right there. And then you're going to strum the top 4 strings. And it creates what's called the easy G chord. It's easy because there's only one finger, and it's a G chord because of the 3 notes that make up the G chord, which we'll talk about later. Next, you're going to take the first finger, and you're going to put it on the first fret of the first string, and that's called the easy G7 chord. And now you take the first finger, and you're going to put it on the first fret of the second string. And this time you only play the top 3 strings, and that's the easy C chord. So what I've done here is given you a little example, and I want you to repeat it 4 times, like this. Easy G, easy G7, easy C. 2 times on that to make it a 4-measure phrase. And then you repeat. Try to keep a steady beat or use a metronome. I like this one right here. It's the Chord KDM1, or KDM2, I'm sorry. So I could tap tempo, 1, 2, and that's 50, which is probably plenty fast if you're new to this. 60 is usually the basement or the lowest tempo that you would want to practice, and 120 is what's considered a fast tempo. Anywhere in between there is fine. If you go below 60, that's totally fine. Here's 50, but when you're practicing, you always want to try to use a metronome and keep some sort of a beat going. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Okay, you get the idea. I've accelerated right into 8th notes in this example because I've realized that many people want to get things moving here really quickly as they can, and that's fine. So what I've done in the very next example, we're going to use those same 3 chords, but we're going to use 8th notes. What's an 8th note versus a quarter note? Well, if you watch some of the intro videos about basic rhythms, you know that a quarter note receives 1 beat, and it's a black note with the stem, and there's 4 of them in a measure. 4 quarters are in a dollar. 4 quarter notes are in a measure of music, so you can remember it that way. If you split each quarter note in half, there was 4 of those, so if you split them each in half, now there's 8. That's why they're called 8th notes. There's 8 8th notes in a measure of music. If you ever heard somebody counting and they said 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and they're counting 8th notes. So every time you say 1, 2, that's when your foot taps, and that's where you hit the ground. Foot taps on the ground with the click. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, if my foot comes up in the air, my pick will have to come up in the air with my foot, and that's an 8th note. It's like this. 1, these are quarters, 2, 3, 4. Now, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. You can't see my foot, but it's going down, up, 1 and 2 and. And my foot and my hand are synchronized like this. So if you watch somebody playing that knows what they're doing, and they're playing 8th notes, their hand and their foot should be synchronized like this. And that's one thing you want to work on. If you have trouble tapping your foot and playing, don't sweat it. Just gradually try to get that in there. Now, line 2 here starts with measure 5. It's the same example in terms of chords, but it sounds like this. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, rest. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and. Okay, so you see that little black squiggly line there in measure 6, that's a rest on beat 4. The reason I put that there is so you can switch your first finger over to the C chord a little bit easier, because you might not be used to doing this. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3, rest, and that's when you switch. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, 2, and 3. Okay, practice with a metronome, go in increments of 5 or 10, meaning if you start at 50, do that 4 times. Once you feel like you've got it, go to 55. Do that 4 times. Go to 60. Do that 4 times. Go to 65, and so forth. The next example starts with your first quote-unquote real chords, the first position chords. We have our second finger, middle finger, and third finger, here, ring finger, here. Second fret on the 5th string, second fret on the 4th string. It looks like this, and you're going to arch the elbow in and bend the wrist like this, so all the other strings are ringing true, and you don't want to grab it like this, because it's not going to work. It's not a baseball bat. Go like this, and bend. See how my wrist goes forward, my elbow comes in like this? Got a lot of room here. It's not on my leg, nothing like that. It's just real nice like this. You want to be able to swivel the wrist like that. Not a lot of tension here. Not a baseball bat either. It's like this. Okay, E minor, all 6 strings. Real nice. Now, if you take these 2 fingers and you glide them to these 2 strings, which is the 4th string and the 3rd string, you don't want to, we're going to go to the A minor chord. You don't want to lift off and put them back down. You always want to try to keep your fingers very close to the strings and slide them from one to the next. Now the first finger will play the 1st fret on the 2nd string, and this what creates A minor. Now the low string is not in the chord, so you can start on the 5th string and strum like that. If you hit the low 6th string down here, don't worry about it. It just happens sometimes, but try not to. Then you gradually slide these 2 back over here and lift this one up, and that's E minor. Now, you've seen me talk about the 1, 2, 3 switch, and that's what we're going to do here. You're going to E minor. You're going to go 1, 2, 3, switch. 1, 2, 3, switch. 1. And again, try to go as fast as you can, but try to make the switch in rhythm so it sounds musical. Here's 60 on the metronome, like this. 1, 2, 3, switch. 1, 2, 3, switch. 1, 2. If that's too fast, go down. Here's 45, for instance. 1, 2, 3, switch. 1, 2. Okay, so like that. Next page, measure 13. We have the E minor chord to the A minor chord again, but this time I've introduced 8th notes, so it sounds like this. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 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 you do that 4 times at each tempo, going up in increments of 5. If you don't have a metronome, there's no way of gauging your progress. So some people say to me, oh, well, I've been sitting here practicing this for 30 minutes every day, and they come in and they're still taking as long as they want in between chord switches. So they'll go, doesn't sound like music at all, because there's no rhythm. It would be much more efficient and better when I'm listening to you and your wife or your friends are listening to you like this. 1, 2, 3, switch. See, now that rest in there allows you to switch, and it gives you a pattern to follow. It sounds a lot more musical. We're going to go to measure 17 now, which is the second line on page 2, if you're looking at your PDF file. A minor, which was the chord that we were playing in the last example. Now, we're going to go to the next chord you need to learn, which is D7. And I'm trying to show you chords that are easy to play right off the bat. They don't really necessarily go together in terms of keys, so to speak. But I'm trying to make them so you can get started here and make some music very quickly. So here's A minor. Now, when you go to D7, the first finger stays. The second finger goes to the 2nd fret on the 3rd string. The 3rd finger goes to the 2nd fret on the high string. And you can see I'm forming a little triangle shape right there. And we're going to strum the top 4 strings, and that's D7. Now, the reason I put these 2 chords together is because they're chord pairs. What's that mean? A chord pair is when the first finger, or any finger for that matter, shares between 2 different chords. So you can see how the first finger stays, and I move these like this. That's called a chord pair. It doesn't have to be the first finger. It could be any finger that shares between two chords. Now, I've accelerated. This is a kind of a quick introduction to chords and switching. Like I said, if some of this gets a little bit too difficult, that's okay. Just slow down and go to a previous video. This one introduces probably the most famous acoustic guitar strum pattern that you can do, which is 1, 2, and skip, and 4, and. Now, in the notation, you'll see a little curved line between the and of 2 and the beginning of 3. And then there's no marking in the tablature or no pick marking in the notation for you to strum beat 3. That's called a tie. I say the word skip, meaning don't hit the strings. So it's like this: 1, 2, and skip, and 4, and 1, 2, and skip, and 4, and. A lot of times you'll see me taking my hand and just touching the strings without squeezing. Makes a nice percussive sound to practice your rhythm. 1, 2, and skip, and 4, and 1, 2, and skip, and 4, and. Notice the whole time my hand is doing this: 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Real nice and even, just like if I had a yo-yo or basketball. Back and forth. My foot's tapping. There's a real steady pulse to it, like this. When you hit the strings, that's what creates the rhythm. So your hand is doing this the whole time. But when I hit the strings, that's what creates the rhythm. 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and skip, and 4, and. If I hit them the whole time, it would sound like this. That's all 8 notes, which is fine. But we're trying to make some patterns that are more interesting. 1, 2, and skip, and 4. Now, A minor to D7. Many times at different tempos. Next one starts on measure 21, and this is A minor to D7. 1, 2, and 4, and 1. Okay, so measure 21, we have now down, up, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, down, up. So you can see right off the bat we've got 8 notes, then the tie. So I put the tie in a different place. And the same thing, it's A minor to D7. So that rhythm is down, up, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, up, down, up, down, up. So I'm trying to add in some different rhythms for you. Again, this is a bit of an overview, and this example goes a little bit more quickly than some of the other ones. Measure 25, A minor, D7, E minor, easy G. And we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and is our pattern. Let's hear this one. So now I've added all four chords together with our first pattern, the 1, 2, and 3, and 4 and it sounds a little bit more like a song. So 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. Okay, introduction to chords and switching and strumming. This is a quick overview to get you started. If some of this is too hard, please go back and just go through the 1, 2, 3 switches and the chords practice examples that I've given you. Or you can start with this, and if you feel good about it, just keep moving into the song examples. Alright, see you next time. Thanks.